Yeah, we like to joke that we do service home services in general, but we did start with a focus on restoration, which is far and away the hardest category.
I am has not always been the biggest proponent of utilizing AI answering agents specifically for emergency service calls, right? I'm a little old school in that I like people, right?
As a restorer, if you're a one truck business or you have a small organization, you don't have the time, you might not even have the budget to kind of, punch above your weight class and take a technology like this. Well, what if you had something that was simple and effective, that was not time consuming to set up? And that's effectively what we're also, rolling out to clients.
I feel like we're literally months away from me not having to host this podcast anymore. AI Clinton will then interview guests like yourself to bring value to our audience there. Nick, is that what you're saying? Am I going to be replaced?
Welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. In each episode, we're going to bring you insightful interviews and discussions with top restoration industry leaders. We're also going to delve into their business, the strategies that made them successful, and most importantly, the valuable lessons they've learned along the way. I'm your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer at Water Restoration Marketing. We're a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping restoration companies nationwide secure more high-value water jobs. Now, this show, it aims to provide you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the restoration industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
And welcome everybody to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. I am your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer over at Water Restoration Marketing. I want to welcome back our audience of restorers. This is our first episode of 2026. We took a little break for the holiday and my birthday. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our first guest of the year. This is Nick D'Urbano, the co-founder and CRO over at Distance. Nick, thanks for joining us on the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast.
Lynn, man, thanks for having me.
So I met Nick at a couple of different restoration industry events. He and the Distance platform really utilize some great technologies to service restoration companies. And with the current weather across the country right now, surges and freezes and storms, and the kind of windfall of calls, leads, opportunity for restoration companies, I thought it was a great time to get Nick on here to tell us a little bit more about the Distance platform and how restoration companies are using it to handle surges like this, right? So they're not missing leads, not missing opportunities to convert homeowners, business owners in their service area into on-site visits and jobs. So Nick, before we dive too much into the platform, why don't you give the audience a little background on yourself, Distance as a company, and how you guys ventured into the restoration waters?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little history on me. I actually have an interesting background because I hold three passports. I'm Canadian, American, and Italian all at the same time. So I
Nice.
like to joke around that I'm the Jason Bourne of the software industry. And and my background has always been in it started off in investment banking, but it very quickly switched to sales and growth. So everything I've done over the past 20 years has really been focused with the lens of how do I help in large part software companies and the constituents that we were serving grow their business. And so with that mindset, we started Distance back in 2021, before AI was a thing, before AI was cool. And we were building a sales platform for small, medium-sized service businesses to help them grow their sales, right? So we were giving them all these tools that they can use to capture leads, convert leads. The challenge is, as you know, restorers, home service professionals in general,
Mhm.
they don't have the time to sit in and like learn a bunch of new tools. Like it's hard enough to just do the basic work of the work. And so we had some success, but really when AI and some of those APIs came out, we thought to ourselves, okay, here's a really interesting opportunity where instead of just selling a piece of software that helps you capture and convert leads, we can actually do the work for you. So not only can we give you the software, we can give you the service embedded inside the software. And that is a huge unlock for a lot of folks because ultimately it kind of takes the onus of having to learn and operate a piece of technology to generate revenue and just kind of puts it on autopilot, which is obviously incredibly powerful.
Now, you guys service a lot of different home service businesses, but you've gotten a lot of traction recently, specifically with restoration companies. Before we actually get into the nuts and bolts of the deliverables and how your service works, what's been your experience working and talking to restoration company owners?
Yeah, we like to joke that we do service home services in general, but we did start with a focus on restoration,
Oh,
which is far and away the hardest category to start with, right? You talk about like pest control where the stakes are low, the contract values are low, they don't have emergency services. If you have a rodent in your house, yeah, maybe you freak out, but it's not like you don't need to call the police. Um, Whereas restoration, there's so much on the line, huge contract values, high risk, emotional calls, and we're kind of starting in the hardest category to begin with. So that's been a really great learning experience for us, and it really is a testament to technology that we were able to actually capture so many customers, have them stick around, have them grow with us. I think is a testament to, how far the technology and our business itself and the service we offer has come. This would have been unimaginable to service emergency situations using artificial intelligence like 3, 4 years ago is like that would have not been a thing. I don't think anyone would have trusted it to handle those types of calls. And today we do tens of thousands of calls a month.
so, Nick, if anybody knows me and listens to this podcast, they know that I am have not always been the biggest proponent of utilizing AI answering agents specifically for emergency service calls, right? I'm a little old school in that I like people, right? When someone's calling about probably in most homeowners cases their most valuable asset in the middle of some type of emergency, I think a nice warm voice from someone that understands, empathizes, and can really make sure that you dispatch the right service to get that home back to square one. Um, but I utilize your technology for my agency. I have restoration companies that utilize your technology on the websites that we put together. So I wanted to have this conversation, not because you're gonna skew my perception of the value of human beings answer the phone, but because I really think you guys have an interesting product suite. And I know that especially in times like this, right, where phones are ringing off the hook, and I don't care how well staffed you are as a restoration company, or if you use a third party answering service, there are going to be leads, there's going to be calls, there's going to be things that slip through the crack. And I really think that you guys' product suite over a distance is a great complement to
Yeah.
a strong intake program with a restoration company.
Well, I do have a hot take. So I do think that I actually agree with what you said. All right. So here's the AI guy
Whoa,
actually
whoa, Nick.
agreeing, right? Hot take. So, it's not our intention that AI should take 100% of your calls, right? Our contention is that no company is perfect. And if you look at your sales funnel as a business owner, the best scenario, okay, you start a company, the best scenario is the owner answers the phone. You're never going to get a better service than that. You grow, you hire people. Now there's some risk there. You're training them. There may be some inconsistencies. You grow a bit more. You hire an after hour call center solution. Now there are a lot of inconsistencies. Right now, who's answering the call in the day? Who's answering the call at night? Who's missing the call in general? Because we do see folks where calls don't get answered or the phone rings too long. And so the worst outcome is uh, no answer at all. The second worst outcome is an inconsistent conversation, and so what we are really battling against is those last 2 buckets, right? How do we create more consistent customer experiences, and how do we prevent scenarios where customers are gonna hang up because the phone was ringing too long? Which, going back to your first point, is very much what happens during a storm surge. And so that is it's important to kinda compare ourselves because if you say, "Hey, Clinton answering the phone versus AI's got a lot of work to do to catch up to Clinton answering the phone for his agency," right? But Clinton missing the call because he's on the phone, I mean, now what are we comparing ourselves to? We're
Sure.
comparing ourselves to a missed call, to a voicemail, and I'm telling we're gonna do a 10x better job than those 2 things.
All right, I
So,
like
ultimately, it's all a matter of perspective in terms of where this fits into your pipe.
for the restorers that are listening that are not familiar with Distance and its suite of products, let's take them one by one, right? So,
Sure.
for us, one of the things that we're a huge fan of is your AI chatbot. I hope that's the right terminology for it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We've got it on client sites, we have it on our agency sites. Tell us a little bit about that tool and how restorers are using it to convert more leads.
Yeah, absolutely. We have kind of 3 tools. One of them is AI chat, which it connects, those little pop-ups that connect on your site.
Mhm.
So that's one piece of the equation. Embedded in that is also other channels. So if you wanna integrate us into Facebook or Instagram, if you wanna integrate us into SMS, into your form on your site, so when someone submits a form, a lot of folks qualify leads with a form,
Sure.
but then the form, it takes them, like, 3 hours to get back to someone because it goes in an inbox and you're playing telephone tag or email tag. Well, you can submit a form and instantly send an SMS. So it's like, "Hey, Clinton, thanks so much for signing up. I noticed you're looking for A, B, and C. I had some follow-up questions, and I'm taking something that usually would take a long time, and I'm making it instant.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm gonna drive better results that way." So the chat is multi-channel. So it does live on your site in the chat box, but it can also live on these other channels, which
Ah,
is, in restoration, I think people appreciate the value of connecting with customers on different channels.
mhm.
Ultimately, if your house is underwater, yes, you're gonna probably call. But if it's a mold job, or you're a price seeker and you're looking for some questions, etcetera, you might not call to ask that question.
Sure.
If I give you a really frictionless way to get in touch with me, I can now start that conversation. I could start more conversations. I could book more jobs. I can also lessen the non-urgent calls so my phone lines free up a little bit. So there's a lot of strategic imperatives for why I would wanna add, a live chat or a form to text on my site. Might not be a huge volume driver, but it adds value and it will drive incremental leads.
I actually love that you said that because more and more restoration companies are offering these non-emergency services, right? In addition to mold, we're talking things like pressure washing, right?
Absolutely.
Air duct cleaning,
Yep.
just other additional services, interior, exterior services. So those non-emergency services, you're right. That's a great way for you to engage with homeowners, business owners that are just looking to get some additional information, qualify those leads before you actually waste any of your team's time having conversations with unqualified prospects.
Absolutely. And if I was hiring your agency to drive leads to my business, obviously it's very difficult for you to like advertise, "Hey, do you have a flood in your house?" Usually when you have a flood in your house, but on those other services, you can very much advertise against those,
Sure.
right? And my point is, if you're advertising to those and you have multiple ways of connecting with your customer, you can actually drive a lot of throughput on those ads, whether they're Google ads, whether they're Facebook ads, etc. And we've seen a lot of success with customers, clicking an ad on Facebook and instead of going to the website, actually engaging directly in a DM, right? So I'm not even leaving the channel. I'm staying within the app. So there's all these little strategies, these things you can test as an organization to say, hey, with this particular service offering and this particular ad set on this particular channel, does this work better? And giving you and giving restorers the tools to make those hypotheses and those tests, I think is really valuable.
I know there's a guy that owns a restoration company that's sitting in his truck right now, listening to the episode, thinking to himself, yeah, I've heard a lot about AI and how other restoration companies and these big national franchises are utilizing the technology. I don't know that I have the time to sit there and program an AI agent with all the services that we offer, all the
Yeah.
questions that we want to ask. What do you say to that guy that looks at this as might be a little too labor intensive in terms of getting that kind of system up and running for them?
I would say I agree with him. I would say that there are 2 ways of setting up AI, and I think he's looking at it from one vantage point. There's another vantage point that a lot of folks don't really understand. So, there is I'm gonna set something up custom, a custom
Mhm.
script with custom prompting. That is incredibly powerful, but incredibly expensive and time consuming as well.
Sure.
All right. So if you are saying, "Hey, I want to replace, a big chunk of my call volume with AI, and it's got to do all this fancy footwork, and it's got to transfer calls here and do this, and in this scenario do this, and if this then that, and all this stuff," right? That is expensive and time consuming. But there's another philosophy, which is, "Hey, I want to answer the following questions." Like there's a playbook that's been built, that's been productized,
Okay.
and all you need to do is answer some questions. Well, we can basically get you set up in one call.
Wow.
Within one call now, this is a brand new offer. I guess I'm beating the gun here. Technically this is launching in February, but we have a service offering now where it's a lot more structured. So as a restorer, if you're a one truck business or you have a small organization, you don't have the time, you might not even have the budget to kind of, punch above your weight class and take a technology like this. Well, what if you had something that was simple and effective, that was not time consuming to set up, And that's effectively what we're also, rolling out to clients.
I really like that, and I think Distance is uniquely positioned to work with restoration companies because of the experience that you guys have, right?
Yeah.
It was the first home service niche that you guys focused on, and you guys literally have hundreds of restoration companies that are utilizing your technology right now to, plug the holes in their bucket, right? So they can collect more
Absolutely.
leads and opportunities there.
Absolutely, and we built out IICRC compliant scripts as well. So we have all the kind of component parts that you can use that it's like, "Hey, this is pretty standardized stuff that we're bringing to market here, somewhat customized to your business." That's, bucket A, or bucket B is, "Hey, no, I got a whole custom suite here, and we're gonna do something really special." And that's available as well. So there's 2 paths to go down, and I think people, when they think about this product, they think about one path, but they're not even aware of the other one, which exists as well.
Now, you said there are multiple products in the suite. So we've talked about the chat
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah.
Give me some insight as to how other restoration companies are utilizing the platform.
Yeah, so the chat piece is I would say a gem that is, very useful, but not as used as the other 2 features that we have. So
Okay.
the other one is voice, AI calls, which is obviously what 99.9% of our restorers are using us for today, which is how do we help you either, replace an after-hour call center solution, answer overflow calls during the day, or, given this crazy weather, basically make your storm surge or demand surge periods much more effective, and profitable. And then the third bucket is outbound. So on the chat side and on the call side, that's all inbound volume.
Sure.
On the outbound side, it's, hey, how do I actually initiate conversations using AI for my customers using a tool like SMS or email marketing? Especially with SMS, though, I think a lot of folks don't realize the power of that as a channel. So, for example, if you're trying to do Google reviews, how effective are you at collecting reviews? Oftentimes people forget, they don't ask. You can create a campaign every month, every week to basically send out, "Hey, Clinton, how was your experience with XYZ restoration company?"
Mhm.
Terrible. Okay, I'm not gonna ask you for a review if you think it's terrible, right? There's a different set of follow-up
Right, Nick,
questions.
Nick, don't let Google hear you. That's gating. You're
That
not supposed to
that
do that. So-
well, hey, no, but I'm still going to, ask follow-up questions, etcetera, and, the assumption here is people are gonna like what you say. Now, if they like what you say, it's like, "Well, fantastic, here's a review." So, obviously, on Amazon, you're not allowed to do that, but if you were, like, calling folks on the phone, I mean, that's effectively what you're doing. If your reps are in front of a house and the guy is really upset at the job, you're not gonna ask
Not
him to
gonna ask
leave
for review. So review. Sure.
you know what I mean? So that's the difference. It's not a marketing message, it's contextual, right? So I'm having a conversation. I'm trying to collect feedback from customers on how did it go. And if it's relevant, ask the question, how do I chase accounts receivables and improve my bill payment? On the sales side, folks who do commercial restoration, they're often knocking on doors, and that's the one modality that they use to
Sure.
engage prospects. If you add a second or a third channel to that, you engage in real life, and then you also send SMS and you send emails. And now you start to hit them up on 2, 3 channels, you're gonna see a 2 to 3x increase in your conversion rates.
I like that.
And so
Before
that is where this starts to really move. Sorry, go for it.
No, no, no. I didn't mean to cut you off. Before we go down the outbound path, because that's really interesting. We have a lot of conversations on the podcast about the most effective way to get in front of your property managers, your referral partners like plumbers, insurance agents, and stuff like that. I want to go to the voice for a second
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because AI voice answering agents are probably one of the most polarizing conversation
Yeah,
in the home service industry right now.
absolutely.
I've had, because we have an agency, because we generate leads and calls, because we record those calls, I've had the opportunity to listen to some of these AI answering agents there. And I will say, the AI answering agents that I listened to 6 months ago, 9 months ago, they are dramatically different
Yeah.
than the AI answering agents that I listen to today. So the technology has certainly come a long way. I still think that there's a ways to go, but I liked what
Course.
you said earlier about it's better than the voicemail alternative, right?
Mhm.
And there's certainly enough bad answering services. Now, they're good ones. They're really good at answering services. There's not bad answering services out there. And those are expensive nowadays, the good
Yeah.
answering services there. So talk a little bit about AI answering agents and how your restorers are currently using them, and maybe just some experience that you have that some of your clients that are really, really happy with the result.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of really cool tactical examples. So we have one really large client. So imagine a client that's doing, 20, $30 million in revenue.
Okay.
And they were really skeptical about AI. And so I said to them, all right, well, why don't we try overflow calls? He said, we don't get a lot of overflow. I'll come up, I'm like, you don't get zero, right? So you get some, you don't get zero. So for a test, like, let's try it. So I said, why don't you have the AI answer the call after 4 rings? Because according to your call logs, that's when a lot of folks drop off. He goes, Nick, I'll do this, but under 6 rings. I go, all right, well, a lot of people after that 5th ring are hanging up. But if you want to try it on 6, let's just try it on 6. So what happens? Phone rings 6 times. In a quarter, you didn't get that many calls, right? You got like 4 calls or 3 calls or something. Converts 2 of those calls and makes 100 grand in revenue. And so my point here is like that is an example of using this tool really conservatively. And even at that, if we were to replicate that result over 4 quarters, that's almost a $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year in revenue that we are generating because of a very small number of calls. So I think restoration is incredibly unique in that if your conversion rate's 50%, your average contract value is anywhere from like 10 to 100K,
Right.
then the acceptable limit for missed calls is 0. At 0, like, period. And so even if you're missing like 4 calls a year, I would argue that having an insurance policy in place to win back those deals, this is ROI positive on 1 conversion event. So it's a very, obvious thing to test and to kinda suss out whether or not it's a good fit for you.
Now, have you gone back to that same restoration company and convinced them, hey, let's let the AI agent answer after 4 rings or 5 rings as
Of
opposed to
course, and
six?
then you start but I think that's the smart way of doing this, true, right? If you're skeptical, and we have 2 types of folks in this space. Folks who are like, "Hey, I believe in this technology and I'm ready to rock and roll and let's put it in because I know I have problems and this thing can solve my problems." Fantastic. We have other folks who are like interested but skeptical, and in that sense, like, let's walk before we can run. Let's build a test. Let's sandbox this in a specific, period of time in a specific way that's de-risked for you and allow the product to do the selling, right? Allow the test to validate whether or not you should roll it out across different timestamps, etc. So that's one example. Now the other example is we have clients that use this as overflow. And in a period like this week, where we're recording this at the end of January, where obviously there's a huge storm surge across the US, there is massive, massive value in not just answering more calls, but in qualifying what's in your pipe as those phones start to ring. So what I mean by that is obviously in a demand surge, people are going to miss calls, even in restoration, the phone's ringing off the hook. You're going to try to do your best job that you can to call the missed calls back, but you have no idea who those missed calls are. You have zero information. You have a number, right? If AI was picking up those calls and we educated the AI script to qualify a little bit, set very clear expectations around a callback, right? So we're going to call you back in 6 minutes. We're going to call you back in 4 minutes. We're going to call you back in 3 minutes. We're actually going to transfer you right away. And if we transfer right away, whoever's on the call, like, will pick it up.
Okay.
My point is now there's no such thing as a missed call and no information. Now the worst case is I have a bunch of notes on who is in the queue and a timestamp of like how fast I need to get back to them on. So I know I can prioritize Bob, who's a commercial account that I need to call back right away. He called fifth. Susie called second. She's like a telemarketer. I'm not going to call her back and waste my time. So now I have a very clear idea of who is sitting in my queue. And so what we find is that using this technology not only helps you answer more calls and book more jobs, but in the case of a storm surge, it also has this added benefit of actually understanding what's in your pipeline because we're answering the phone quickly and we're able to qualify leads, qualify deals, take that information and send it to the appropriate person in the company. So I can transfer it live, I can send a note to you, whatever the case may be. Imagine if you had an unlimited number of CSRs answering the phone,
Mhm.
you'd capture all this information on that second ring, and so that becomes incredibly valuable in terms of how you prioritize your pipeline.
As somebody that's been working in this space for years, how have you seen the voice technology advance, especially over the last 6 to 9 months? It seems like there's just been so much stride in the and how natural the AI agents are sounding on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild, and we do have some, enterprise clients that record their own voices and, yeah, I I did that. We recorded internally, like, an AI using my voice, and it is crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's like I have a replica of me, that we use internally to kinda test, and it's incredible. Like, the quality of the voice is incredible. It's unnoticeable from me. Even does the little stammering things that I do, and yeah, yeah, like, it totally picks up on all these little nuances. I had to record for, like, 3, 4 hours, just
Okay.
reading scripts, and so, it really studies and decodes the language. So there's, like, there's the AI voices, which are voices that the AI has created, they're programmed.
Mhm.
Then there are recordings and there are clones. So there's these different types of voices that can be created. And obviously, if you build your own voices and put time and energy into that, which we are doing, you end up getting a superior product as well. Like in terms of the efficacy of the conversation, the realism, the way that it talks, the way that it interjects, the speed at which it works is all turned up a few dials.
I feel like we're literally months away from me not having to host this podcast anymore. AI Clinton will then interview guests like yourself to bring value to our audience there, Nick. Is that what you're
Well,
saying? Am I going to be
I you
replaced by
know I you
AI?
know what? I wouldn't say you're gonna get replaced by AI, but what you can do is enhance the podcast by putting all the transcripts into a model, and then if people have questions, they can just talk to you and suss out questions from previous guests, and we've seen folks do things like that. So I don't think we're gonna ever get to a place, or at least not in the short in my lifetime at least, and maybe I'm underestimating it, but I think there's always gonna be a space for original thought, and I think all of these technologies are complements to what we're currently doing, or they're replacements for things that are not valuable, right? So I would say if you are doing repetitive tasks and saying the same thing over and over again, that is not it's like the same thing in the Industrial Revolution. Like if a person is like hammering a nail all the time and a machine can hammer that nail, wouldn't it be a better allocation of that person's energy to do something else?
Sure.
And what else can they do? Well, they can manage the machine that's hammering the nail. They can do a different task. They can go further up or down the stack and do something different. So it's a reallocation of energy, and where value is created. So it's a really interesting philosophical question as well.
All right. So we've talked a little bit about how restoration companies are utilizing the chat features, right?
Yeah.
Especially across different marketing channels to stay engaged with those prospects. We've talked a little bit about the AI voice answering agents, and it sounds like restoration companies are really doing a great job of utilizing that to handle overflow calls. Um, Again, we talk a lot on this podcast about generating revenue for restoration businesses. And a big part of that is outbound efforts, right? It's
Yeah.
not sitting there waiting for the phone to ring. So give me some use cases for Distance's AI or outbound portion of the,
Right.
the, the
Yeah.
platform, and how are restoration companies going to be able to utilize that technology to generate more revenue?
So I'll give you 2 examples.
Okay.
One of them is win backs. So how many times if you're converting at 50%, that means 50% of your conversations or your leads are not being won. Now, some of those are in contract phase and they fall off a cliff for whatever reason, but a subset of those are because someone just ghosts you. They engage with you and then they don't get back to you, and you do not have the human labor capacity to manually ping them 12 times or 10 times to bring them back to the table. But with AI, you can. With AI, you can create a campaign and send them a message and educate the AI on following up and winning them back. So you can go and harvest lost leads. And if you had, I don't know, 100 lost leads in a quarter or in a year, and you're able to win back 10 of them, 10%,
Mhm.
5%, whatever the number is, it's N is greater than one here, right? You're going to
Sure.
win back some of these leads just by re-engaging a little bit more consistently. Again, going back to our conversation of the contract values, that starts to move the needle from a revenue standpoint. So that is a strategy that doesn't require you to spend more money to make more money. It just means, how am I more efficient bottom of funnel? How am I harvesting the lost leads and re-engaging them on autopilot to bring things back? You know who does this really well? E-commerce companies. It's called
Sure. Yeah, they
abandoned
sure
cart.
do.
How annoying are those emails? Hey, you left something in your cart, but guess what? They work, right? They work bring people back to the table and people convert. And so you could build a similar workflow within restoration for that. So that's strategy number one.
Okay.
Strategy number two is, hey, I have these prospects. How many times do we talk to folks who have a lead list of commercial accounts that they haven't signed an MSA with? And their first goal is to go and sign a contract. Then their second goal is, once they have that contract, how do I engage that lead to actually give me the work? Because they might have MSAs with like 3 other restoration companies, right? So there's like a two-part selling equation. So for both of those equations, you can use multiple touch points to improve your conversion rate. Improve your conversion rate of winning the deal and improve your conversion rate of winning the job.
Yeah.
So for instance, I have 100 accounts. I'm going to go in, I'm going to knock on 100 doors. Great. You're going to convert 5% of them or whatever the number is. Okay. If I knock on 100 doors and send 200 emails and send 150 texts, I guarantee you your conversion rate's going to go up.
Absolutely.
Conversion rate, it is going to go up. There's a bunch of stats. We have all the data to prove it. And so you just need a tool that's going to help you do that. And the beautiful thing here is with AI, you can actually continue the conversation. You can actually have the AI book meetings. So, hey, Clinton, James stopped by last week and dropped off some donuts. I hope you like them. Just curious, we're having a webinar next week. Blah, 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 blah. You have some time to connect. And that's an automated message that feels authentic.
Sure.
It's referencing something that happened. It's using your first name. You respond. It responds in kind. It sends you a link. You book a meeting. So all of a sudden, I'm taking that sales rep, and instead of having a one-dimensional job description of go and pound the pavement, I'm now augmenting his capability. I'm saying press a button and just like double your workflow. Now you've knocked on 100 doors and you've sent 150 emails and you've sent 150 texts. So now you've hit them 3 times instead of 1 time. The same, by adding an extra 6 minutes of work to your calendar. So I've tripled my output with only a 6-minute increase in work because I had to create the campaign.
All right, so we've got the restoration company owners in the audience, but we also have business development reps that are working for these restoration companies that are listening to this thinking, hey, Nick, how can I utilize that technology to stay in front of the commercial prospects that I'm trying to engage, right? And trying to make sure that we ultimately get that deal. But I love them. Love them to death, love the restoration industry to death. But sometimes the owners and even the business development reps, they are not good with the technology, Nick. So tell me a little bit about how easy is the platform for that restoration owner or that business development rep in that restoration company to utilize the outbound tools that you guys
All right. It's a great question. I would say it's easy today and it's only getting easier. And so what I mean by that is we've made it such that it doesn't take a degree in computer science to set this stuff up. Again, and our goal with all of our clients is like within the first meeting, can we get you across the line? Can we get you to a place where like this is easy to execute and there's a couple of buttons? Um, and we're building out a bunch of features. I don't want to tease them out too much, but we're building out some really cool features that even if you forgot what we said and everything was a blur, we could put some of this stuff on autopilot for you, so you don't even have to log in. So uh, well, we're trying to build a tool which is as much set it forget it as possible. Like my definition of success is a client sets up once with us and then never has to log in again.
Oh,
Never has to touch anything. Like that's the ideal state. And we do have clients where it works like that, where we have like it's a system, it's all automated and fantastic. And then, the next level to that, well, the previous level to that is okay, maybe they have to do like one action, they have to press 2 buttons. And so that's really, really easy. But, so it's either no work or very little work. And that's really the objective.
Um, I, I know you said you don't want to tease out stuff, but we're going to get to that in a second. Before we do, Nick, I want to make sure the audience can reach out to you, reach out to the
Yeah.
team over at Distance if they have an interest in finding out a little bit more about using your suite of tools in their restoration company. What's the best way for folks that are listening to today's podcast or watching us on YouTube to reach out to the Distance team?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you go to distance.so, there's a contact form there, so you can book a meeting directly with our team to learn a little bit more and get a demo. And Clint, I can send you a calendar link directly to my calendar. So your audience, if they want to talk to someone, they get direct access. They get direct access to me, and we can not just kind of walk through the product, but actually walk through strategically how to use this solution for them.
I love that.
and do kind of like a sales funnel assessment and say, all right, well, if I was your CRO, if I came into your company tomorrow, what would I do? And look, some of those things, like, my objective on those calls is, even if you don't use distance, hopefully you get a couple of tidbits out of this that can help you move the needle. And I think that that kind of, makes it a valuable experience regardless.
If you're driving to argue with an insurance adjuster right now, you don't need to pull over. We're going to put Nick's contact information, a link to a booking form in the show notes, in the YouTube description, because I really want you guys to have a conversation with Nick. I have a feeling not only is he going to deliver value, but if you guys see what I see in terms of these technologies and how they can help you grow your restoration business, you're going to take advantage of it. You did mention earlier that some of the features out using. Some of them are in beta. Some
Yeah.
restoration companies are already testing. Talk about what is available for current use as of the time this episode drops, which is going to be
Yeah.
this Friday. What's coming next month, and what do you see in the future for distance, AI, and restoration companies?
Yeah, all right, so, everything, the AI calls, all that stuff, that's kind of core to our product. AI messaging, multi-channel, core to our product. AI outbound focused on SMS, that's core to our product. So those are the 3 levers that you have today, which is 99% of what I talked about. We are adding an email suite to the tool, which I think is really exciting. Email doesn't have the same open rate as SMS, which is
No.
why we started with SMS, but it is still very efficacious. So, ringless voicemail and email are the 2 additional channels that we are rolling out. So those are additional touch points, just dropping voicemails into someone's inbox as a reminder or as a follow-up, dropping an email. When you start layering in these activities, a call, a text, a voicemail, an email, you become much more effective, right? Sometimes it takes like 3 or 4 different pings on different channels in order to move the needle or get someone's attention, a client that you lost or someone that owes you money or someone that you want to get a review from or a prospect that you want to convert into a closed deal. And so ultimately, the goal here is to add multiple channels and to build workflows where folks can very easily kind of orchestrate. I'm going to do A, then B, then C, then D. And that's kind of the world that we're moving into.
Okay. Now, I know you guys, from an outbound standpoint, SMS, email, you guys are going to be adding maybe
Yeah.
messaging through the various social platforms.
Yeah.
When do you think distance gets to the point where it marries the voice, the AI agent voice with the outbound, right? So that
It's a question we get asked all the time. It's such a good question, Clinton. And you know what? Ultimately, that's a debate that we have internal because there are tools that do like outbound sales with AI, et cetera. We've tested them internally. And we've actually built out some of that capability. The reason we haven't launched that is we don't think it's efficacious yet.
okay.
When someone comes inbound, they have intent
Mhm.
and they want to talk to you. When you go outbound with AI, it's like, it's hard for a really skilled human
That
to do
makes
that
sense.
effectively. And so it's like we gotta get to a place where this thing is better than a human on the phone, and it's good, it's very good, but that the bar is so high for that outcome that I think we're still a little bit a ways from it.
All right. Well, I have a feeling that the team over at Distance in the immediate future, I'm talking 2026,
Hey, man, we're
2027,
we're
you
we're
guys are going to figure that out there.
we're cooking, we're cooking some stuff, so
Nick,
yeah.
again, as a customer of Distance, super big fan of you guys' suite of products. My clients are customers of Distance, which again goes a long way towards proof of concept because we have restoration companies that we work with on the marketing side. They're utilizing the technology. So, again, audience, I hope you got some great value, some ideas. I hope your wheels are turning about how you can use AI, specifically the Distance platform, to plug some of the holes in your marketing channels and your revenue streams, convert more of those opportunities into on-site visits and jobs, and utilize this technology, especially in surge times like this, so that you're just not missing out on opportunities there. So, Nick, I really appreciate you being a part of the podcast today. Again, one more time for the audience, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? Give them the website address.
Yeah, it's, distance.so, and, there's a little contact form there. You can get in touch with me and book directly on our team's calendar, or use, I guess, the link in the show description here to book on my calendar directly as well.
We will do that. Audience, thank you guys for sticking around. If you like what you heard today, make sure that you guys subscribe on all of the platforms. We just recently launched the Restoration Pros Unplugged social channels. So we've got our own YouTube channel, our own LinkedIn page, a community on Facebook and Instagram. So make sure you guys get out there and follow it. And obviously subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify or Apple, wherever you guys found our content. We really appreciate you. Nick, thanks again for joining us. Hope you had a good time. Hope your message reaches more restorers so they have an opportunity to utilize you guys' technology.
Appreciate you, Clint. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share, and also leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back with more interviews and discussions with restoration industry leaders really soon. In the meantime, if you're a restoration company looking to add more high-value water jobs, you can reach me and my team at waterrestorationmarketing.net. Again, that's waterrestorationmarketing.net. I look forward to hearing from you soon.